Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Losing ground. Melvin Hamilton didn't necessarily like the responsibility he had as the president of the newly formed Homeowners Association, but no one else would step up, so here he was.
I've always hated speaking in front of people. What have I gotten myself into?
His wife Edith straightened his tie and patted his chest.
Oh, Mel, you are going to do just fine. We're in a crisis, and someone has to take the bull by the horns. I know, dear. I'm just nervous and worried. I'm worried nothing I do will make a bit of difference. It may not. You know it, and I know it. But you can hold your head high, knowing you've at least tried. None of us know what the future holds, but by golly, at least you have the gumption to give it a go.
Melvin leaned over and kissed his wife.
I'd be lost without you, Edith. You always know just what to say to me. I haven't been married to you this long not to pick up a trick or two.
The couple laughed.
Now, I'm gonna go put on my nice dress, and I'll meet you at the door. Our guests will be arriving soon.
Melvin sighed and patted the pocket of his sport coat to make sure he had his notes for the Homeowners Association meeting tonight. He needed all the reassurance he could get. At 6 o'clock sharp, the first member arrived. Harvey Thomas shook Melvin's hand and walked briskly into the room.
I haven't missed anything, have I? No, Harvey. You're the first one here. The meeting doesn't start until 6:30. I like to be early. My mother said that's the way I've always been. I was even 2 months premature.
The red-cheeked Harvey laughed at his own joke and looked around.
Feel free to go into the living room. Edith will be bringing out refreshments soon.
Melvin had a strong suspicion that Harvey's main motivation for arriving early was to get first dibs on the hors d'oeuvres Edith had prepared. His wife's reputation of being one of the best cooks in the city was no secret. Years ago, she'd had her own cooking show on television.
I can't really blame Harvey. Those treats she made are delicious.
Melvin smiled because Edith called him her official taste tester, so he always enjoyed every goodie she made, even when they were experiments in the kitchen that no one else had tried. Soon other guests arrived. There were the Pinkertons, Helen and James, the O'Reillys, Patrick and Lorraine, the Swensons, Paul and Bridget, and the Levinsons, Cal and Ruth. Before long, more showed up, and the Hamiltons' living room was brimming with people. Melvin stood and cleared his throat, hoping that his voice didn't shake as much as his knees did. He plastered a smile on his face and dove into the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and it's good to see so much support in our community. I know this association was formed for reasons none of us are happy about, but I think our only chance at success will be if we join together.
Nods of approval went around the room.
We are all facing the same threat. As you know, the city is in cahoots with a local developer to tear down our neighborhood and build a business park over the top of us. It just isn't right.
More nods of agreement came from the crowd.
It's going to take all of us to change this, and we need as many of our family members as possible to become involved too.
Sweet Ida Haskins raised her hand.
Ida, do you have a question? Not a question, really. I just wanted to point out that not all of us have relatives nearby. Why, years ago, my children and grandchildren moved far away.
Sympathetic looks spread across everyone's face. They all knew how lonely Ida was. None of her family members ever came to see her. And while she wasn't the only one in the neighborhood who never had visitors, it angered her friends and neighbors to know someone as kind as Ida was left so alone.
Miss Ida, don't you worry about that. It's not a problem. Any support we can get is appreciated, but in reality, I think we all know that stopping this is up to us. Those of us in this room are who will have to make a stand.
Ida's eyes wrinkled at the edges as she gave a relieved smile to her friends.
I'm not accustomed to running a meeting.
Melvin looked nervously around the room. His friends smiled back at him, giving him encouragement.
So feel free to ask any questions or make any suggestions you want.
Cal Levinson raised his hand.
Yes, Cal. I was wondering if Jerry Matson had found anything out when he went to that planning meeting the other day. As a matter of fact, he did. That's part of what I wanted to talk with you all about tonight.
I wasn't sure if Jerry could get into the meeting or not, Lorraine O'Reilly said. There could have been real trouble if they knew who he was.
No one noticed him from the sounds of it, Lorraine. Jerry couldn't be here tonight, but he left some notes with me.
Melvin took a folded paper from his breast pocket.
It says here that Mayor Wilson was at the meeting, and he seemed overly chummy with Lex Monroe, that sleazy developer.
No one in the room was fond of either Mayor Wilson or the flashy Monroe. They'd all seen their types before, and Wilson and Monroe weren't improvements over the ones they'd known in the past.
Nothing worse than a dirty politician.
James Pinkerton's disgust was met by that of his neighbors.
Or a dirtbag developer who just wants to take land away from good people like us just so he can make a dime.
Everyone agreed with Paul Swenson's assessment of Lex Monroe. Cal Levinson brought them back to the big question of the evening.
So, did Jerry hear if they're really going to use eminent domain to take over our neighborhood? Would they really uproot us?
Melvin's face fell. He looked the expectant people in the eye, then spoke.
Yes, I'm afraid that's exactly what Wilson and Monroe have planned.
Cries broke out across the room.
We have to do something to stop this.
We can't be taken from our homes. It's not right. Melvin, what can we do? Thank you for joining me for Into the Night, an anthology series written by Caroline Giammanco, narration and sound design by Nari Kwak, theme music by Nico Rodriguez. All original music and editing in part provided by Flyboy Entertainment. You can find our links in the show notes. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you enjoy what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review to help other excursionists to join us. You can find us on your favorite podcast directory. See you next time. And remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths take you into the night. Into the Night is a Creative Typo Entertainment production.